We left off starting chapter 13. In this book, our protagonist, who is yet to realize that she is secretly the divine mother of the universe, is getting close to her destination. She is on a pilgrimage up into the Himalayas with Sid, who is secretly the divine father of the universe. Sorry for my hiccups. May this reading relax your mind and awaken your heart. By late afternoon, we closed in on our destination, Lake Dodital, the sacred emerald lake, the birthplace of the elephant god Ganesha, according to legend. From an overlook, I stopped the 4 boys who had pushed past me, erecting a tall structure of branches and twigs. Film music blared. "They're building a bonfire," I cried, "right next to the lake. They must be stopped," I said. I hurried down to do battle, tripped on a root, and fell forward on my hands. Sid helped me up. "I'm fine," I said, shrugging him off. "Those horrible boys must be stopped." Sid took hold of my arm. "Let's get you cleaned up first," he said, and led me in the opposite direction toward a modest structure with a corrugated tin roof and a wide porch where Ram Singh stood puffing on a beedi. Mohan hurried toward us and relieved me of my backpack. The management team of the Ganesha Rest House, Mr. Arjun Thapa and his wife, Gomati, an attractive couple with broad brown faces and slightly upturned eyes, formed our reception committee. Their entire focus was on Sid, and they smiled and shook their heads, clearly delighted to see him. Gomati cast a sidelong glance at me, probably to determine whether I was male or female. My attire, now embellished with my round granny glasses, was not exactly flattering. I made a solemn namaskar. We were shown to our rooms, and soon a boy came with a bucket of hot water so I could wash. We lunched on vegetable momos, Maggi noodles, and hot pickles, during which time all the conversation was in Nepali, with the odd English noun thrown in. The couple nodded at me at certain points when Sid was probably explaining my presence. How comical I must have seemed to them. I set aside my concerns regarding the rude boys and their bonfire. Sid was the one who railed against polluters and other defilers of the planet. This was not my fight. After lunch, I took to my bed for a few hours to read a memoir that I had picked up at the trekking store, Wandering in the Himalayas, by Swami Dabhovanam. In 1928, the intrepid Swami had made the trek to Lake Dodital, walking for miles, sometimes barefoot, carrying nothing, and taking shelter in temples, under trees, in uninhabited ruins, or out in the open. He bemoaned the fate of the sacred mountains that were fast becoming a tourist attraction open to motor cars. At the time, the lake was isolated, inaccessible, and fiercely guarded by a village people who believed that the fearsome gods who inhabited the lake would rain terrible curses on them if the lake was defiled by unclean activities such as bathing and defecating. Crops would fail, children would not be born, but the villagers recognized a great Mahatma, a great soul, in Swami Dabhovanam, and he was allowed passage. Thick vines, bushes, and tree branches had to be cut or pushed back as there was no path. The Swami recounted having to cling to trees, dive under branches, and crawl on his stomach over stones and thorns before he could get through. His feet were swollen and bleeding from contact with poisonous plants. When he reached the lake, in spite of the freezing cold, a hailstorm, and minimal sustenance, all he saw was the divinity of the universe. I slept for a few hours, and when I woke I was confused to whether it was day or night or where I was. I rose and knocked on Sid's closed door, but Gomati, who was at the window overlooking the lake, pointed. Sid Saab was to be found outside. Through my binoculars, I could just make out the shooting flames of the bonfires, with the boys dancing in a circle around it. And there was Sid, within the circle, swaying hypnotically, kicking up his heels while taking a swig from a bottle. I went out to the porch, shivering in the cold to find Mr. Tuppa staring the bonfire. Bonfires should not be permitted in forests, I said. We are not permitting, he said, but boys are from big families, son of finance minister, son of chief minister, sons of billionaire. How can I stop anything? I will have no job. Was this the reason Sid did not want to confront the boys for their bad behavior on the trail or for their illegal bonfire? Because they were sons of important people? Sid was drunk again and colluding in a criminal act. He was like the rest of us, after all, I concluded, weak and immoral, to be bought and sold. His interest in me had flattered me, and I had, without any proof or encouragement, raised him on a pedestal where he had not placed himself. He spoke with authority on the teachings, but he was most likely only parroting what he had read or heard. He was as lost as I was, and was himself grasping at any truths that suited him. I had naively placed my trust in this undisciplined, unstable man, and now my best course was to leave as soon as possible. I returned to the dining room to a solitary meal of tomato and egg sandwiches and a bowl of clear broth. I fell asleep that night remembering my associate Pepe, in those times when we were best friends and happy. Oh, Pepe, I pleaded, please help me. Please forgive me. The next morning, I found Sid on the porch, sprawled in an easy chair, his head in his hands. Tapa, Ram Singh, and Mohan were clearing the remains of the bonfire. The boys, housed in 2 tents, were apparently sleeping late. Hangover? I inquired mildly. Sid heaved himself up. Coffee, he muttered, and staggered in. When do we leave? I called after him. Soon, he said. I'm going for a walk, I said. The surface of the lake was serenely smooth, and just below large, sinewy trout swirled. I made my way to the temple where I removed my shoes and entered. I nodded my appreciation to the pink shiny porcelain god with the head of an elephant. I imagined myself with an elephant's head. How would that change me? I would be thoughtful and slow. I would be wise. The image of the dying elephant chained to the floor at the Rameshwaram temple came to me. I returned to the rest house. Sid was on the porch, bundled in a blanket, a tumbler of coffee at his feet. He looked drawn and tired. It's a pity that I've come all this way and have not seen the great Himalayas, I said. I've had sightings here and there, but I don't have a sense of that immensity and grandeur that blows everyone away. He slowly raised his head as if the slightest motion was agony. His eyes were bloodshot. If we climbed to the Darwa Pass, he said, his voice was a rasp, you'll be able to view one of the major ranges, Bandarpuch, Swargarohini, Shrikanta. How far away is that? I inquired. About 3 miles to about 12,800 feet. If you are keen to go, we should be able to make it up to the pass and be back by evening. We'll stay another night here and set off for Sangam Chatti early tomorrow morning. Are you up for it? I'm an experienced hiker and fully rested, I said. But I'm not sure you're up for getting out of that chair. He rubbed his eyes. Be ready in half an hour. Take only the necessities. No Ram Singh or Mohan. Sounds like a spontaneous decision to go even higher into the Himalayas. We'll pause our reading of Moksha, liberation, there for now. Thank you for listening. I look forward to continuing her trek with you next time.